Hello, my name is Kelly Eagleson, and I'm one of the vice principals here at Magee Secondary School. The SPARTs program that you're about to learn about is one of our highlight programs here at Magee, and I'm proud to be the administrator of that program. Just so that you know, SPARTs is our sports and arts combined program that we support student athletes and student artists here at Magee. Should probably take about 25, 30 minutes to go through the entire slideshow. And of course, when you're watching this, you can pause at any time and take notes, grab a snack or whatever you need to do. That's the joy of doing some of these things online. So a little bit about the program. SPARTS is a program, it's been around for quite some time now. It supports exceptional student athletes and student artists. Really, it's for self-motivated, driven, organized students who are passionate about their sport or art. It's not really a program for student athletes or student artists who are enthusiasts. It's really meant for people who are serious about what they're doing. What we do is we give students a modified schedule so they can compete or perform while they still work towards a Dogwood graduation and, of course, post-secondary and all those other good things. And what we do is we put together a program with the academics are done here at Magee, and we supplement that with some Vancouver Learning Network courses. So those would be remote courses. And of course, SPARTS is part of the Magee School community. I'll talk a little bit more about that in some future slides. So SPARTS is not for student athletes who are at the enthusiast level. And while I absolutely respect some of our team sports, say, for example, soccer and hockey, if you're playing, kind of 8, 10, 12 hours a week, you should be able to maintain the schedule that you already have at your home school. You wouldn't need a modified schedule for that. This is more for students who are, kind of in the 25-hour Monday to Friday training range. Not really for students who struggle with motivation or organization. And it really is designed for students who have that laser focus on the finish line, and they're highly competitive. They're putting a lot of time into their outside activity. It's not a program that cuts corners academically. So SPART students, you're not going to see them walking around Magee and matching tracksuits and taking special classes and everything gets modified for them. The teachers are very accommodating, but students are still going to learn the same material at the same rate as every other Magee student. It's not a program designed to accelerate graduation. So we're not set up for students to go ahead and complete grade 12 when they're 13 years old or anything like that. Our SPART students here will progress at the same rate as everybody else. You're going to be here at Magee for 5 years and then graduate in grade 12. SPARTs is not easily able to accommodate really specialized schedules. So some of our singleton courses or one-off courses we have here. So, for example, honors math or some of our AP courses. The way that the SPART schedule works, it doesn't always fall in exactly the right place. So, an example of this would be, let's say honors math happens in the afternoon, and that's when the SPART student is training, is in the afternoon. That student would not be able to take that course. So, it does come up once in a while. We do try to accommodate the best we can, but there are times it just doesn't happen. It's not really meant to pad applications. When you come to Magee as a SPART student, we want you to be passionate about what you're doing. So if it's just a box ticking exercise, you're really, leaving your friends and everybody behind from your other school, that can be a big leap. And so if people are looking at it, just simply to make your resume look a bit better, your CV for post-secondary, we would just encourage you to do well in school and be well-rounded, not to come to Magee just to make your application look good. Excuse me, sorry about that. a little bit of a cough here. Um, SPARTS is not able to accommodate students who are gone for long periods of time. So, for example, alpine skiing, that it can be difficult if they're away for 6 weeks or 2 months. It's not really set up for working artists. So, for example, an actor. So, if an actor they're on a movie set for a couple of months at a time, that would be more of a distance learning environment where they would thrive in. It would be very difficult to maintain contact with teachers. Our students are not an elite subgroup, so it's hard to pick SPART students out, just because they're mixing with all the other kids here at Magee. Um, SPARTs is not necessarily partnered with any outside associations, so we take care of the education component and the schooling component. The outside organization would take care of either the artistry or the athletics that kids are involved with. So while we do stay in contact with coaches and associations, we aren't like Magee isn't attached to volleyball club X or anything like that. So we do have students who come from a variety of backgrounds. And again, SPARTs are part of the Magee community, and we try to get our SPART students involved in as many things as we can. But it can be difficult just because time is tight if you're training 25 hours a week and doing your academics at the same time. Here's some of the activities that we've included in the past and could probably accommodate. If there's something there that's not listed, just make sure to still apply. It doesn't mean that there's something that isn't listed. You couldn't come to SPARTs to Magee, but just make sure you put that on the application. We'll take a look at it as a one-off basis. So SPARTs courses, junior academics. Generally, what they're going to do for grade 8, 9, and even 10's kind of in the middle. They're kind of a little bit senior and a little bit junior, but grades 8 through 10, you will typically take math, English, science, and either socials or French. We do have other language options here right now. We have Spanish and Japanese. One of those socials or a language generally is going to be done through Vancouver Learning Network, just because you're only here half time. We starting in the 2021 school year, there will be physical and health education for SPART students. That will be done mostly remotely with some face-to-face time as well. That will give you that grade 10 PE credit, and we also have our grade 8s and 9s to cover the health elements that they probably won't be getting when they're out at their specialized activity. You'll also take consumer education 8 or 9 if you're in grade 8 or 9, or the grade 10 version as well. That'll be done remotely. Sometimes our CLE 10 we do face-to-face as well. Kind of depends on how the schedule works out. For the most part, that'll be remote. Our senior academics, everybody takes English, a version of English, and we have a couple of different options you can take there. We have AP English and a few different choices. You can check out we do have our course catalog that's posted on our webpage and see our different English options. You could take a combination of sciences, humanities, and if you want those PE credits, PHE credits, you would also be enrolled in PHE for SPART students, and you will finish as a grad requirement. You'll do your capstone by the end of grade 12. So SPARTs courses, you will accumulate sufficient credits for post-secondary. That's not a worry. Our counselors are very experienced. They've done this many times. Same thing with the administration. You might be new to SPARTs, but the experience isn't new to us. So our counselors are experts in guiding you and for what you're going to need to graduate, and have lots of options for post-secondary when you're finished. We do end up giving you external training. So for example, if you're on a provincial team, you'll get some PE credits, and we work out some fine arts credits. Really be careful with outside advisors. That we do have advisors who often give incorrect information, or they guide our students to try and take shortcuts and do all sorts of different things. Really, we want to fall back on our counselors. They are the go-to people at the school in terms of which courses to take and when to take them. So SPART students must take a minimum of 4 courses at Magee. Any fewer than 4, and you would no longer be a SPART student. You'd be going to Vancouver Learning Network and taking courses that way remotely. And of course, SPART students, sometimes they take more than 4. That sometimes we have students who are they're really motivated and really driven, and they can say, you know what, I can handle 5 or 6, and that happens on an individual basis. But the core 4 is what we assign to SPART students, and they seem to do really well with 4, with all that training that they do. So we want to make sure that we have that that school and that balance between school, competing, and having a social life and all those things. Once you get up into the 5-6 range and you're training 25 hours a week, it can become quite stressful. Here's an example of a SPARTs junior, that would be grade 8, 9, or 10 timetable. This is before COVID, and hopefully we'll be back to non-COVID soon. But this is how a schedule would work. That they would have science, math, English, and or French, or socials, or another language, say Japanese or Spanish, plus one VLN course I mentioned before. And they would also take the physical health education through remote learning. That would be with a Magee teacher, and of course their career education, 8 or 9. This is what our COVID timetable looks like. And what we've done here at Magee is we've made it work that instead of going 1-1 and 1-2, we go 1-1 and 1-3 for the first quarter. And the students, what we do is we give them either an all morning or an all afternoon timetable, and they're here for one course, and then they're doing remote learning for the other half. I won't go into this in too much detail. We've got other videos about this, about like how we've dealt with COVID and how we've adapted our schedule. There's another video on our YouTube channel. You can watch that if you want more detail. But essentially, what we've done is we've taken that old schedule, the 1-1 and 1-3, we've put it into our COVID schedule, and that's how we make it work for SPARTs. You can see here as well. I'll just rip through this, but for example, if a SPART student had English in 1-1A, they would have English in the morning for 1 or 2 weeks, usually about 2 weeks, and then they would flip. They would have their remote class. If they were a full-time student, they would have a remote class in let's say, for example, in the afternoon. The teacher might work it out at that point, or they would probably have it. They may have it in the morning as well. That remote class, but a SPART student wouldn't have that remote class. They would only have the one class. So they would be doing their English in the morning, and then after that, they would be doing remote learning for 2 weeks. This is our current COVID schedule right now. I'm doing this video. It's October 20th, 2020, and this is what it looks like right now. But there's more information about our schedule in the YouTube channel as well. You can click on that if you'd like to learn more about it. Ultimately, there's only 15 kids per class. Safety is our number one concern, and that way, having those really small classes, we've got some social distancing. We've also got, if there were to be a case here at school, it's really contained because you only ever see 15 other students here in Magee. Just some notes about successful SPART students. So our successful SPART students is what we've noticed over the years. They're always organized. They have to be organized. They often use either their phone or their student agenda or a calendar to keep themselves on top of all their due dates and training schedules. You got to be supported. You have to be backed up by your team. And so that includes your parents and your association. So your association should be supportive of you applying to this program. They're proactive in communicating with teachers, administrators, counselors. They really SPART students have to be advocates for themselves, and they have to let the teachers know if there's a competition coming up. in a couple of weeks, is really important that they let those teachers know so that the teachers can give them adaptations for work. You know, it could be longer time or fewer questions or whatever it is that that you work out with those individual teachers. And the teachers here are they're professionals, and you know they've been here for the most part for a long time, and they know the drill. They know what happens when you know, the nutcracker comes up for dancers, and they the dancers come and give them the form and say, you know, I'm going to be really busy in 2 weeks. I won't be at school, and they work that out with each individual teacher. Successful SPART students are realistic in their expectations. They know that they're not going to get 99.9% of the time. There are ups, there are downs. Sometimes when the training schedules get really tough, sometimes school can suffer a bit. I wouldn't say that our SPART students aren't successful academically, but sometimes it goes up and down, and that's to be expected when you're training something, when you're doing something 25 hours a week. So SPART students, they in general, they know how to get knocked down and get back up and get back at it. So they need to be resilient when they come into the program, and that develops as they go along. It's really important that our students maintain good mental health through balance. So making sure that they're staying connected with friends and family, talking to their teachers, and letting their coaches know where they're at, both mentally and physically. Some students may not stay in SPARTs. What that means is they're going to remain here at Magee, and they'll just take a full timetable. Usually happens around grade 11. That will just get students. They're kind of burned out. They get burned out. Maybe they've been training too much. Maybe they've decided that it's just not for them, and they successfully transition to Magee, and it's not a big deal. And our students who have stopped doing SPARTs and are just doing a regular Magee schedule, they always, you know, they're doing great, and we don't generally leave them. They tend to stay here at Magee. So SPART students with specific learning needs, we're talking about if you're a student watching this right now, if you have an IEP, we make sure we take care of the learning. So sometimes we have to get you to talk to coaches, and maybe you dial back a little bit if you're at a challenging in let's say, you know, there's assignments all due at once. We can work with the organization. Sometimes I'll give a phone call or an email. If you have an IEP, you might find SPARTs challenging, and we will probably, what we would do is we would give you a skills block. So that would be your 5th course would be your skills block. Skills block is where you go and you get extra help. Let's say, you know, you get a little bit of tutoring with your reading. Maybe you're working on math. We often have grade 12 students assisting the skills block, the skills development center teacher, and we will get some peer tutors. Will come in and give you a hand with that. Any students who are thinking about the learning support program, you would have talked about this in grade 7. That's a Magee program that we have. You would apply for that with your grade 7 teacher. We do try to keep a spot or two open where you could come to our learning support program and you could still do SPARTs. Generally speaking, the LSP classes are first thing in the morning, because we know that's when your best learning happens. So long as the outside training agency does their training in the afternoon, it's not a problem to have our LSP kids here in the SPARTs program at Magee. So you're probably wondering, how do I get into the school and into the program? So I'm looking for elite provincial and or national levels of competition or performance. It's got to be 25 hours per week of supervised certified training, not including competition times. So your well-intentioned, you know, uncle who is really good at weightlifting will probably not cover you as a trained coach. That said, if your well-intentioned uncle has his BTRPA certification, or you know, he's a certified powerlifting coach, something like that, that's what I'm looking for things like training or coaching. I'm also looking for 2 years of previous competition or experience. And I know it's going to be hard to have provincial or national level competition because of COVID. Just put down some of the previous competitions that you've done in the application. Looking for schedules from coaches and associations so that we know what your anticipated schedule will be in September. Also, how you're training right now. I know if you're in grade 7 and you're watching this, you're probably wondering, well, I'm not doing 25 hours a week right now. No, you wouldn't be because you're in grade 7. That's why I'm looking for what you're going to be doing in September of next year, not worrying about 25 hours a week right now. Work habits, some of the new report cards, they don't have space for work habits anymore. And I do read all of your report cards, all the things that your teachers write, super important to your application. So if your work habits and attendance haven't been great, I would, and you're watching this right now, you have time to get on top of that. I'm looking for great work habits, great solid attitude towards learning, and also that your attendance should be fantastic. I shouldn't be seeing a bunch of lates on the report card, because that means that you're not managing your time very well. So if that's a problem right now, you've got a bit of time to work on that with your application. I'll see that in the future report cards. And just to keep in mind, SPARTs is a choice program. So your training program and academics will be reviewed regularly. If your training drops or your academics, you're struggling academically, sometimes we do have students, it doesn't happen often, but sometimes we do have students will pull back from their training a little bit so that they can get on top of school. So a few things to consider before you get your application in. Are you ready for the many compromises? And the compromises are listed there, but think about the travel time. If you're coming from, the Templeton area or Britannia area of the city, are you willing to be on the bus that long? Can you commute here from Richmond comfortably? Is it worth it for you to be traveling, commuting 3 hours a day? A lot of our students come from outside of Vancouver's boundaries, and that can be a big consideration, especially during COVID. How much time are you going to spend away from your family and friends? So with all this commuting time and 25 hours or more a week of training, you're not going to see the friends you have right now as much. You might see them, through social media. You'll get new friends here. It's just something to think about. Does the organization need you more than you need the organization? So are they using you to pad their numbers? Are they using you to just to make sure that they have a program? That's something to think about. This is where we're looking for that high degree of competition to make sure that you're not just coming in. If you just started playing volleyball last year, or 6 weeks ago or something like that, and all of a sudden you're applying for SPARTs, we would want to know why. And that's where we want to see a couple of years of participation and also a high degree of performance before you come. What are the motivations and qualifications of your coaches and instructors? So are the coaches doing it for themselves, or are they doing it for you? Are you mature enough to handle the demands? It's a big leap coming here. You have to be very independent, and you really look after yourself. How comfortable are you with the idea that maybe you won't get all of your courses all the time? You may not get that honors math. You may not get that AP course exactly when you want it. So you do have to be flexible. There is some compromise to coming to a program where you're only here half time, and when you're here only 4 out of 8 classes, it is somewhat limiting. We still get you all the courses you need for graduation, and to make sure that you can have some options for post-secondary. But sometimes there are some limits to the things that you can take, and that comes with any program. One to think about: who's driving the bus? Is it the student athlete? Is it the parent? Is it the coach? Is it everybody all together? That should be a really fulsome family discussion as to the motivations for applying for an intense program like this. That students usually do kind of around grade 10 or 11. Where will this get me? What am I going to get out of this? If you're doing something intensely for 5 years and you're missing out on things like school dances, maybe you can't join that club you wanted to, Maybe you're not able to hang out with all the friends you'd like to. Sometimes maybe, school can kind of get away from you. If that's the case, and you're sacrificing all these things, you got to think at the end of 5 years, what is this going to get me? If you're going to be a professional dancer or become a wrestling coach, and that's your passion, absolutely, this is the place to be. If not, you may want to think about that. And again, that's a family discussion. This happens to most of our athletes at some point. They get hurt. That's part of being an athlete. What do we do if you get injured? And we do have our athletes and some of our artists as well. Sometimes they get hurt, and sometimes they have to pull back a little bit, and we can often modify schedules there. We have had the odd kind of career-ending injury, usually ankles, knees, things like that. And usually what ends up happening is those students, they just become a regular Magee student if their athletic or artistic career is competitively is coming to an end. That's not a problem. So our application timeline, we will be using the VSB online application. That's VSB Apply Now. There's a link in the later slides. And the main thing will be the documents that you find on the SPARTs webpage. So SPARTs students, you don't need to apply as a cross-boundary. There's no district placement. We are a district program. There's no test to come in. So I get the application. I speak with our counselors. We take a look at them, and then we make a decision from there. Make sure that the forms are all complete. Sometimes that can lead to delays. Our application deadline, we are going to have for right, and it's 2020 if you're watching this right now, and it's going to be Thursday, December 17th. I'm decided to extend it to Friday, December 18th. If you've applied somewhere where let's say their tryout or their audition is after December 17th, or it's actually Friday the 18th, please indicate that there is an audition or tryout pending, and then you'll just update the file. Offers will be made before Tuesday, March 31st, and that's so we can get our staffing done and you can figure out what you're going to do for next year. So I'll be sending that out through email. This is a summary. It's on our webpage of the documents checklist. The one to sort of really look at is our independent schools. So any school that's not any student who's applying from a non-VSB school, so that might be the Francophone School Board or one of the independent schools, you have to apply to use the VSB Apply Online, and you're going to apply to your local catchment school. So you can look that up. There's a tool on the Vancouver School Board that you put your address in, and you say, oh, I live right next to Gladstone. So you would be applying to Gladstone, and then the application package that you give me, I can pull you in from there. So we need to get you into our system before we can get you here at Magee. Out of boundary students, just bring your application right here to school. International students, and I know it's going to sound strange, but out of province students, even though you're not international, you will also apply through the international office, as well as sending the documents to me. And if at all possible, I would prefer physical documents, just because once we get all the things that people add, like their training and report cards, it can be quite a large file. And it's one of the few things I actually prefer to have paper in my hand with. A little bit harder for our internationals, and we can work those out on on an individual basis. When you apply, please don't bring big plastic inserts and photos. And I don't mind if photos and things like that are on paper. But we don't want to have, a bunch of things that are falling out and USB sticks and all the rest of it. Just the package that I have posted, download that and you can fill that out. The document will look like that. It's a 4-pager. And what I'm looking for is, of course, a completed application package, your term 1 report whenever you can. And I know it's a little bit funny this year because there's some different reporting periods. So what I'd like for you to do is include all of last year's reports. So if you're applying as a grade 11 student for next year, I want if you're in grade 10 right now, I want your grade 10 report cards as they come along, but also all of your grade 9 report cards. If you're in grade 7 right now, you would be attaching all 3 of your grade 6 report cards. A letter from your coach or organization. And sorry, my phone's going off right now. Hopefully I can mute that. Letter from your coach or organization, and also a copy of your coach's credentials. Okay, so to show that they're an actual certified coach. There's the address for the VSB Apply Now. That's to just get your application in, and any learning assessments that you have. So if you have an IEP, please put that in there. Any sort of extras, add those to the application as well. Also looking for proof of competition, evidence of achievement. So if you've done a bunch of squash tournaments in the past, please show me. You can give me a copy of your ranking would be helpful. This is really important. I would like your training schedule for right now, your current and your anticipated training schedule as of September. All right, so that could be a letter from your organization. You could just write that down in the actual package itself. And of course, I would prefer a physical package dropped off at school. We will have a box so you can drop it off at. Actually, because there's sensitive information, just bring it right to the office and you can drop it off there, and because we don't want your personal information getting out anywhere. So for contacts, you can contact me here at Magee if you have any further questions, either through email or phone. And again, my name is Kelly Eagleson, and I am the vice principal who has SPARTs on his portfolio, and very happy that you've taken, I guess it's 30 minutes out of your day to watch this presentation, and I look forward to seeing your application. So thank you very much for taking the time, and hope to see everybody's applications come in soon. Bye-bye.